What's going on, guys? We're back at the Real Bodybuilding Podcast. This is episode number 132, and I'm here with the Coach of the Year, Milos Sarcev. How are you, sir?
Good. Thank you, Fouad, for finally having me on your podcast and for Real Bodybuilding. You know, there's a Real Bodybuilding talk. That's where I want to be involved.
Yeah.
So thank you for inviting me.
I'm sorry it's taken so long. We've had a... I don't know if we've had a weird history through the last year, because I know you had some comments for Iain, and Iain is a friend of the podcast, and it's all very, it's all in competition, but I want to get into that first, just to kind of get it out of the way, and not necessarily talk about Iain, but just one of the topics I always cover on this podcast is veterans of the sport and how they see our current sport.
Yes.
So I see you as one of the icons of bodybuilding. Like everybody knows Milos, everybody knows your history, everybody knows how many pro shows you've done and won, and you have a very, very legendary history in bodybuilding. So one of the things I've always said is the people at the very top, or the icons that came before us, should do a better job to promote the current crop of bodybuilders instead of tearing them down.
Yes.
Do you feel that way at all about some of the comments that you've seen come and go from previous icons?
Yes, I do. But as I had this opportunity for the first time to talk about Iain, I know that you're very close to him. And I think that this incident that happened after the New York that he won was really misunderstood and blown out of proportion. So first to say, I love Iain and I respect him a great deal. I don't know if you've seen my recent comments of his. I respect how hardworking he is. He's true hardcore bodybuilder. Very few train as intense as he does. He's so passionate about it. I heard that he's quite like me, just straightforward, say the things that he means. So if I can touch that subject, I'm going to tell you really. What I did after the New York show, on the way back, I was at the airplane. You can imagine you have a just very limited time to post something before the flight. I went on NPC News online. I took all these pictures. There was like 30, 40 photos. I put like 3 in 1. And I just posted them, from the show. Yeah. Not saying anything about my athlete, Max Charles, deserving to beat him or anything else. He's just putting that, right? So his response when I landed, I actually seen it. Oh, look, I see what you're doing. You're putting pictures of Max that looks better than me, something like that, which I didn't really. Yeah. So of course my smart ass remark was, oh, well, if you see it this way, then, maybe you should think about it, right? And then we went back and forth, and it came to the point that, how, we sometimes answer something sarcastically, and he maybe took it in a wrong way. And I know that Melissa actually even cried in your podcast, which breaks my heart. Listen, I love everybody involved in this sport. Anybody that touches the dumbbell, steps his foot in the gym, I love it. This is my job. This is what I do. And especially Melissa and Iain, they're so lovable people. I mean, I have nothing against it. And then there was something else that I now don't remember exactly. He commented something else that maybe I took it wrong. But when I answered him, he was like, oh my God, no, you're taking this wrong. And then I guess he just blocked me on Instagram. so every time I do this is so funny. And I tell you the whole story. This Chicago this year, again, he was competing against Max. And I've seen that, and I know that you have an eye for that, because I see you commentating Prague show. And you watch when people are losing their legs and they relax it, and, front relax, from double biceps, front lat spread, abs and thighs. You don't squeeze your legs, this half of the body, you can lose that pose.
Yeah.
So me being me, I was passing by Iain, and he is competing against my athlete. But I have a duty, what I think. I told him, Iain, this is just my opinion. You didn't squeeze your legs in many poses, so pay attention in the finals. Okay. And I said this in some interview, and I guess Max Charles and his wife took it against me, like, oh my God, I'm helping somebody, to beat them.
Oh, they thought you were helping the competition, kind of.
Yes. And I said, like, listen, okay, let me do this straight. I said, Max, I was backstage in New York talking in front of Akeem Williams and his coach. And I went there, I said, Akeem, if I can just tell you, glue your stomach to the spine, make your stomach flat, me as observant, trying to give him a good tip that by the time you step on the stage, if he pays attention, you can make a difference. I said, Max, I said this in front of you. You didn't say nothing, except you said, oh, Akeem didn't like it. I said, well, if he didn't like it, he took it wrong. But my point is, my athlete or not, I would always come to them and say what I think as an observer and old athlete, like you said, icons of the sport. I want to help. I never wanted to criticize to make it bad. I criticize positively, constructively in that sense. So Iain, if you're watching, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, if I insulted you, I apologize. I didn't mean it. And us commentating on a sport, sometimes I would tell my athlete, you deserve to win. And on that note, because you competed for a long time, and I don't know if actually a lot of people appreciate it. You're like 2 times pro champion, and you were like second so many times. I know that many times when I talk to some people that don't really recognize you as good as you were. So I just want to make that point, because we never talk about it. You're the RBP pro champion that many people would dream about and never achieve it, but you did. To get back on that, I try to constructively criticize. I'm not doing what some of the icons nowadays, as you said, are putting them really down.
Can I ask you, can I interrupt you before you answer that question? Just because something you said about helping guys, and I understand what you're doing, because I'm in kind of the same position now. So because I'm a little bit older, some guys send me their mandatory poses before a show. They're like, what do you think? Or my athletes that I have on the supplement company, those, what do you think? And I'll say, they'll be like a week or 2 out from a show. And I'll say, maybe if you do your side chest like this, it'll look a little better. Maybe you do your back double bicep like this, it'll look a little better. I found that even though your heart is in the right place, when you're trying to help somebody that close to a show, especially if they didn't ask, they take it the wrong way. You know what I mean? So like, I understand what you're doing with Akeem, right? Like you go to Akeem, you say, look, if you bring your stomach in, you might do a place or 2 better. But he's at the moment of the show, he probably can't recognize that you're trying to help. So he takes it the wrong way, right? Like,
yeah, I completely agree with you. And listen, this dated back to my first year as a pro. 91, I met Sonny Schmidt. I'm sure you know Sonny very well. I love the guy. So we became training partners. He was my roommate. And, so first time when I look at him and he said, what do you reckon? Right? What do you reckon? Yeah. That's Australian. I said, like, well, and I gave him some of the criticism, like, and he was, oh, cunt, because in Australia, they're all cunt. Yeah. I said, you don't say this, week before the show. I said, well, a week before the show, you asked me, and I told you. I mean, what does make a difference? Yeah. But really, I mean, now, is this insecurity of the guys? I would always much rather you tell me criticism than compliment, because compliment can be, everybody, oh, you look great, you look great. You don't look great. Yeah. And in that side chest, if you maybe turn a little bit more and do something, it makes a difference. So I am guilty of what you're doing constantly. Look, I love the guys. And when I say everything is okay, I'm not going to even comment, great. But if I comment, is pay attention, look in the mirror. Many guys don't explore. Can they just do something out of the ordinary? It's hard to teach an old dog a new trick. So they did the side chest for 5 years the same way. So they don't want to change it because this is what is comfortable. Yeah. But hey, look at this. They changed like 2 inches this way and he looked 10 pounds heavier. Yeah. So should I say it or should I zip it up?
No, I think it's something that should be said. I just think So if somebody doesn't ask and you offer the opinion, it's like, it's not that it's wrong. And yes, it's still coming from a good place, but you know how bodybuilders are. Or why is it like immediately you would think to yourself, because at the backstage, you know how it is in your backstage, you're like already in this very fragile state.
Yeah.
So to have somebody come up, especially somebody that they respect like you, and then all of a sudden go, hey, you're not tightening your legs. That's going to mess with somebody's head, right? They're like, oh shit. Does that mean my prejudge? But it will help at the same time, but it could also backfire on them.
I understand. Yeah. And I see a point. So in case you did talk to Iain, and actually he took this as maybe negative that I came to confuse him or something. No. From the bottom of my heart. And I'll tell you this, if you look at the prejudging of that Chicago show, you're going to see 10 photos of Iain with no legs. Okay. I'm serious. So what you did in Prague, and I was very impressed with your commentary, and you have an eye for it. Really, I commend you. So I did for my tube. I said, like, you know what? Let me sit right now and just play the video, and I'm gonna judge what I see from there was Texas show, and they had 6 comparisons. Iain, Steve, and Phil. Yeah. They had 6 comparisons. So first comparisons, when I look at the front of biceps lat spread, I would judge the way I see it. But then second time, the same guys did the same pose. I look at it, I'll be damned, Now this guy looks better because, maybe they didn't pull out the lats completely, which happens to Iain a couple of times. And then from the front, legs are not there. So should I, as a judge, consider, okay, I've seen he has the legs. This time he forgot to squeeze them. I'll just, look through it. I'll let him pass.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So as I was calling these poses, and I read on, there was about 10 times, and I changed my opinion during the 6 rounds. Yeah. And I believe the judges do the same thing. I mean, it's easy for us, in the comfort of our home, watch the videos and, say, and it's different when you're on a hot seat of the judge. You have to make a decision. I mean, it is much tougher than people think. And then we all complain. No. I learned my lesson, because when I used to complain, I said, no, I see it differently. Okay, that's my opinion. But did I actually judge? And I said, no, I didn't. I just think overall physique, like let's say Iain's physique. Yeah. And I see overall condition. Okay. But it's not what you have, it's what you show. If you go on that line and you don't show it what you have,
it doesn't matter.
How should I judge you?
Yeah.
So these kind of things, yes.
Well, but just for the record, I didn't actually discuss this with Iain. Me and you were just having
good.
Yeah. Iain didn't say any of this stuff to me. I'm just projecting how I used to think when I was backstage. If somebody would have came up to me moments before going on stage, it depends how it's said. I mean, in one instance, I can see it being like very positive and be like, oh, okay, well, I'll flex my abs better. But in another instance, it might go the other way. So I'm just wondering if you consider that. But anyway, going back to the main point about the veterans of the sport, like even Lee Haney, the great Lee Haney has mentioned some things. How do you think that should be approached? And do you think it's okay for them to be giving such critique on social media? Yeah, well, it's a touchy subject, and I'm going to, for the first time, express my opinion. Of course, I come from the era of the 90s. Yeah, I started in 91. Lee Haney's 80s, and Robbie Robinson 70s, and Barry DeMay 80s, 90s, right? And the raising opinion of normally what? They like aesthetics over just pure size, right? Aesthetics over size. So maybe they're saying in that direction, but they're not using right words and expression, and then it's condescending, and it doesn't reflect a good way. I agree with you. So of course, if I would be some of those guys, I would be offended. But I was guilty of saying in one of the podcasts about Nick Walker before the Arnold Classic that I just don't see that aesthetics, right? So I stand behind it. He's not the aesthetic guy. No. But
the second he stepped on that Arnold Classic stage, within 30 seconds, so, oh my God,
yeah,
he's hands down winner. Okay, so me, aesthetic guy, judge for 40 years I'm in this sport, well, I've seen him winning. Why? On the virtue of, yeah, he has all the muscle. He has the so much dense, separated, striated, hard muscle. He kept his stomach super tight at all times,
yep,
and make himself look, more aesthetic. And
yep,
he was dwarfing them in the size, and it was great conditioning. So for me, I went backstage, and he was right next to Steve Kukla. And if you remember, after prejudging, there was 1 and 2. You don't know who won. And I went straight to him. You won this hands down. I posted on my Instagram, you won hands down before I knew the results. Sure. In front of Steve Kukla, I have no problem saying, and you made me a believer, and he did. I mean, he is so phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But again, is he aesthetic? So now you can probably bring Regan Grimes, right? Sure. So I started working with him, as you know, and I'm not preparing this for a next outing, but when I look at Regan, that's as aesthetic as they come. Like, oh my God. Yeah. That's 70s, 80s, 90s bodybuilding. That's, so if he polished this, how is this going to look? Mm-hmm. So I am on board with, old timers. I would like aesthetics to be brought back into bodybuilding. Sure. I would. Now, let me put you on a hot seat. I mean, because I get myself in trouble every time. If you look, at Nick Walker and let's say Regan, the same conditioning. Okay, same conditioning. Okay, yeah, Regan still needs to make a little bit more improvements in size, but assuming that he does, right? How do you judge? If you consider everything.
If you're asking me if Regan has potential to be a top Olympian, I would say 100%. He has the potential. He has a structure. He has the insertions. He definitely needs to fill out his body because he's, I've seen Regan in person many times. He's a very big guy structurally. His wide shoulders, taller. So yes, he has potential to beat Nick, but Nick also is very, very dense. And I don't think aesthetics tell the whole story. They're only one piece of the puzzle, right? So you have to be able to put the whole puzzle together. And as of right now, Nick has done a better job doing that. But my point more is, like these older bodybuilders like Barry, like yourself, like Lee Haney, they love aesthetics. I think everybody likes aesthetics. I when I look at a picture of Flex Wheeler, or when I look at a picture of you, or I look at a picture of any of these, Lee Haney, I'm blown away. But the difference is I'm also blown away by a picture of Jay Cutler or Kai Green or Nick Walker. So I have an equal amount of respect for the aesthetic bodybuilder and the mass monster, because I know exactly what it takes to build both. Yes. And I know each person is playing to their strength. So I would never talk poorly about a mass monster or poorly about an aesthetic guy. And I feel like that's where the conversation gets lost. Is somebody may have an opinion of a physique they like better, but that doesn't mean that you have to disrespect a different type of physique.
No. Respect should always be there, by all means. And on that note, of course, I respect Jay Cutler and Dorian Yates. Yeah. I mean, let's say Ronnie Coleman. He was winning because he was so much freakier. I did Flex magazine article back in 2003, and I just brought that question and say, Dexter Jackson, Ronnie Coleman. In which aspect of bodybuilding does Ronnie beat Dexter? On the shape, aesthetics, balance, conditioning? No. Only aspect was the size.
Do you really believe that though?
Yeah, I mean, conditioning, 2003, aesthetics.
Okay, wait, you can't pick the year. Let's play a game. So okay. 1999, Ronnie Coleman. Okay. Or even 98, Ronnie Coleman.
98. That's my favorite Ronnie.
Okay, so 98, Ronnie Coleman. What do you think is the best Dexter? 2008?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2008 Dexter, 98 Ronnie Coleman. Where does Dexter beat that Ronnie Coleman? Tell me. Because in my opinion, conditioning is Ronnie.
Yeah, 98, yes.
Structure and balance is Ronnie.
Yeah, well, okay. That's quite there. Listen, 98, Ronnie had a small waist.
Yep.
Yes, small waist, so for sure. But he never had those visible deep abs that would be like just aesthetically when you stand in a front relax and then front of biceps. Yeah, he was as conditioned as they come. But okay, 98 was Ronnie at his condition best. Dexter established himself with the razor blade cuts throughout the whole career. Ronnie, 2000 wasn't that good. 2002 wasn't that good.
Come on, huh? 2001 Arnold Classic, Ronnie Coleman.
2001, yes, but 2000 it was against Cabin.
That was yeah.
And 2002, listen, that's the year when he lost to Gunther later in GNC.
At the show strength.
I mean, one thing that Ronnie did every time after the show, he would tell me, Milos, what do you think? And I would every year I would tell him what I think. 2001, he came to the gym. What do you think? I said, like, listen, you're lucky to beat Jay. And so, he was pissed off. And then next day he goes, I see what he's saying, but I still beat him. I said, okay, that was the year that nobody expected Jay to be that good.
That's my favorite Jay.
That's my This and 2003 Ironman. Oh my God.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, 2003
Ironman. We did those lights. But yeah, so to be fair and answer your question, 98 Ronnie beats any version of Dexter.
Of anybody.
yeah. Actually, yeah. Actually, yeah.
There's nothing, but I just think it's unfair to say it's just muscularity, because I think people mistake aesthetics and structure and proportions. Aesthetics just means you like the flow or the way the muscle inserts. But structure and balance and proportions is the muscle even from top to bottom, side to side? And Ronnie, can you think of any weak points or any body parts that don't match up? Maybe the calves, maybe. 98 calves, yeah. I mean, he did improve them later. But his stomach was not really there. And I tell you this, look at all the pictures and videos. There was numerous times when I mentioned this, he didn't squeeze his quads. He didn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the half of the body. When you're kind of missing calves, so you know what I mean about calves. Yeah. And then you don't have a leg separated, and then your stomach is not so good. Then you end up looking at the arms, and nobody can touch Ronnie's biceps, especially, of course. And then when he turns around at that back, but once he starts getting that injury to the lat, and you see left and right side not being exactly that, he's kind of in trouble. But it's still Ronnie. And then Ronnie did let his stomach out for many, many times. The last few years, I would agree with you. In 2003, 4, 5, it definitely got bigger. But the quads, Ronnie's quads are
crazy.
I mean, I would put Ronnie's quads in the top 5 of all time.
Yes, if he flexes. I mean, I don't have much time right now, but listen, I'm going to do this in the near future. I'm going to find all the pictures and just send it to you for you to see it. Okay. Because for me, as a commentator, I'm watching him front lat spread. He would do the traps instead of the lats. Yeah, he would pull out the front. Yeah. So there's many poses that I would give him my comments. Not that he would appreciate it, like you said, because he's 8 times Mr. Olympia. So who am I to give him my opinion? Yeah. But to go back on this one, okay, 1993, you are the judge. Flex Filler, Sean Ray, Dorian Yates. Mm-hmm. You need to make a decision, and IBB made a decision. Yeah. If I was a judge, the decision would be different. Okay. I would go with Flex. Sure. And when you go with the 1994, prejudging Dorian was way off. Mm-hmm. Way off, plus biceps there, plus conditioning not there, right? Sean was crazy and all that stuff. So that comes to the point of the mass monsters or shaped, pleasing look, right?
Yeah.
So you want to, I appreciate freaky look. Of course,
Sure.
we all do.
Sure.
But it is really freaky or beauty. So freakiness to be. So if you go with what was Joe Weider doing with letting Frank Zane 1977, 78, 79 winning the Olympia, he was what, 180?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And how do you explain Sean Clarita winning with 175 pounds or whatever?
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, this is what we are speaking. Okay, I know what it takes to be your size. I mean, I know what it takes Ronnie, Jay, and everything. And I tell you, Jay Cutler, 96, I saw him first time in Gold's Venice. And really, at that time, if somebody would say, Milos, I'm giving you $100 million. Okay, put on this guy to win Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
No way. That's the era of the 90s of the Ronnie and Flex and Sean and Kevin, Chris, Paul, Lee, you name it, right? So for me to think that this physique, because for me, he was kind of blocky, you know, but what you said, Jay made out of his blocky physique was astonishing. Yeah. He was so much wider that he created that V-taper, X-frame, crazy feathered quads. Just like, oh my God. I like Dexter Jackson's physique better. Yeah. But after 1 minute of 2009 Olympia, I swear to God, I called Jay's mobile number and said, congratulations, you won. It was so dominating.
Yeah. But I think that's, and I'll touch on this point one last time and then we'll move on. But
yeah,
I think that's the problem with the casual fans of the sport. They mistake the beauty that you're talking about with how it should be judged. And they're not understanding that the judging isn't necessarily about beauty. It's more about symmetry, muscularity, condition. And you can have good symmetry and not be pretty to look at. Do you agree with that statement? Like you can have good proportions and still not be aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's the confusion for people, because they're like, they think it's judged on aesthetics and not symmetry and proportion.
Yeah. Symmetry, proportion. I mean, balance. You see, I tell you, first IBB judge that I talked to, you know, back in the 90s, before I was even pro, you know, Ken, I forget his last name, from Los Angeles. He said, Milos, first thing I'm looking, it's a balance and weaknesses. If somebody's missing something.
Yeah.
Because at the pro level already, you shouldn't be missing anything. And then, I understand. But I tell you, back in the 90s even, I made a comments to Wayne D'Amelia, pro chairman at the time, because there was many instances that some guys were not really in condition, but they were really pushed because of aesthetics and status. Even though now it's kind of ridiculous because we like to talk 90s conditioning was something. And really, I do think that if you compare majority of the people that stepped on the stage in the 90s to majority of the competitors nowadays, you can see discrepancy. Not that some of the guys nowadays are not producing this kind of conditioning. But so when I told Wayne D'Amelia, I said, listen, I mean, you should judge to what it is, not what could be if he died at 4 more weeks, or if he lost, like, you know, a Pacific Ocean full of water. I mean, this kind of things.
Milos, how many shows did you do for those people who don't know your history?
I did 110 total, 38 amateur and 72 professional.
72 professional. So how many shows every year did you do? Approximately on average?
Yeah, like on average, it ended up being like 6 because I stretched it. But you see, 2000, I didn't compete. I was not allowed. Okay. I was qualified for Olympia. I was preparing for Olympia. I wanted to compete, but I didn't get the medical clearance because of my synthol accident. And then I had ARDS, that acute respiratory distress syndrome, which is kind of scary. So they didn't want to clear me. And I was so bummed because I was ready for it. And then, you know, European tour comes right after. So you have another 6 shows. I wasn't cleared. And but I did in the 3 years, I did every organized show, IBB. And because this is a good platform, a lot of bodybuilders, true bodybuilders, you know, like yourself, what I really don't understand why they would be passing on the shows. For me, this was opportunity to make money, to be seen, to get some appearances, to get you know, business, right? And it is like 9 to 5 job. I'm not going to skip Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm working every day. So this is how I looked at it. Yeah. But
can I explain maybe for the modern day guys? Because I think I didn't, you know, I didn't do that many shows. I think the most I did in a year was 4. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with the supplement company contracts now, guys are making like, you know, the upper guys are making $50 to $100 to $150,000 a year, or something like that, say, right? So their contracts rely on their placings and getting better. So I think for a lot of the guys, for myself anyway, I'll speak for myself, I wanted to have better off seasons so I could get bigger, so I could get better placings. So I didn't want to compete at every single show because I felt like that would limit my amount of off season and my time to grow as a bodybuilder. But like, I think nowadays you see somebody like Iain, for example, who's got the majority of muscle that he needs. So he's competing more often. But I think a lot of these guys, when they're coming up, they want to just get as big as they can so they can get into the higher placings.
I see that, but that opens a can of worms. For me, the greatest progress I could make was that rebound post-competition.
Yeah.
So if this is the greatest period, then do I want to have more of those during a year? You know, that's why I competed, and then I could take advantage of this rebound. Then 1 year only, I say, okay, 94. I just say, let me have a full off season. And I hated it because there was no immediate, you know, the deadline is the biggest motivator.
But did you hate it because, like you said, there was no deadline, or did you hate it because you didn't feel like you were making any progress? Like it was boring for you?
Both. I mean, I really honestly made a bigger progress in this rebound. This was kind of off. So I am off, you know, that I don't have to really push everything into this basket today and next week because contest is in, you know, 12 months. And the other thing that, okay, you're probably different, that would be interesting conversation. I never liked idea of just overloading, eat big to get big, you know, these kind of things, and get so much fatter that you would want to be. Let's say nobody wants to get fat. Yeah. But when they get fat as the consequence of their eating, because now I'm off season and just eat to be big, you know, that fat cell is going to blow up, and eventually you're going to have to shrink it.
Yeah.
And I've seen throughout the years, many guys, they go up 20 pounds and they lose 20, and then 20 and they lose 19. I would much rather gain 3 and 3 to the next show and stuff like that. I just don't see. That's what I'm going to do with both Samson now and Regan. You know, right now, I don't know if you get the message. I send Samson double order of hostile supplements.
Yeah.
You know, because
what if you get, okay, this is it is an interesting conversation because it comes up all the time.
Yeah.
What if you put on 20 and you keep 10? What if you put on 20? Like 20 is not a lot. Let's say a guy puts on 20 pounds. He's still pretty lean. He puts on 2 pounds on the next stage, right?
Yeah.
What if a guy puts on 40 and keeps 10 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is okay. But in the process for 1 year, you burden your heart and the cardiovascular system, everything else with being way too heavy. And then next year, you're going to do the same thing and same, you know. So for me, from a health aspect, listen, I was doing photo shoots for magazines and guest postings throughout the year. I competed in 99, for example, on 2-week notice. I didn't plan to compete Canada and other champions. So I'm in shape. Why not? Yeah. These kind of things. So I think, and if you pick any guy from a pro scene right now, I say, should you go off season and just get huge, or I would go controlled? Listen, I like maximizing everything. So if I do off season, I would want to maximize growth, of course, but my caloric intake would be just little above the requirement, not 2,000 over requirement, because you know that's going to be stored elsewhere. Sure. So these kind of things. I said this just a couple of days ago, and I don't know if you agree, because you had the kind of new generation. So when I criticize some of the new generations, I see three things. One thing, they don't eat enough. They don't eat enough.
Nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. Nowadays. Okay. They don't eat enough. And I tell you this many times when I send my diets to some guys, and actually have a couple of clients quit on me because, oh my God, this is like so much. I mean, and really it's something that I'm sure that
I think that's true for amateurs because they don't understand how much we really eat. But I don't think it's true for the pro guy. Like if you talk to James or you talk to Rome, like Roman's eating 7,000 calories right now.
Roman Fritz?
Yeah.
Yeah, I coach him for like
you're
6 months. I know.
Yeah.
I know exactly.
1,000
grams of carbs.
Yeah, and James is working with Patrick, and I think James and Ian were both doing over 5,000 calories a day of clean food. So I mean, I think the guys on the pro level that are making progress do understand how much you have to eat. I think it's the amateur guys that are trying to replace the food with drugs, and they don't understand that they need more food to put on size. As far as like getting fat in the off season, I don't believe in getting fat, but I do probably put on more weight than someone like you would like. Like I don't stay lean in the off season. I don't get fat, somewhere in the middle. But I always felt like I always put on, up until I got to about 255, 260 on stage, I always put on 5 or 10 pounds a year. Every year I would put on 5 or 10 pounds. So for me, it worked. I just kept doing it because I felt like it worked. And then once I got to 255, 260, I stopped getting as fat because it wasn't working anymore. It wasn't like I wasn't netting the same amount of muscle every year. So I stopped getting overly heavy in the off season.
Yeah. But you went with that old-fashioned principle of, off-season is for growth. So you got a little bit, like you said, not fat, but...
like chubby.
Chubby, yeah.
Yeah.
But did you like being chubby, or you would much rather see yourself, the jacked, blasted bigger, in a good condition? So I said getting a little bit of fat, and you had a control.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some of the guys guest posing, looking like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of truth. But so I had actually a couple of pros. One is a Greek pro that I sent a diet, and after 1 week he complained. After the second week he quit. And really, it was ridiculous. I mean, there was 60 grams of protein, 6 meals a day, a couple of shakes in the middle. I mean, 80 to 100 grams of carbs per meal. Yeah. It's nothing like...
It doesn't sound crazy, yeah.
Nothing crazy, but I mean, he didn't used to eat that. So, okay. So one thing that I've seen, they don't eat enough. I also think overtraining, like even Jamie came to me right now. Jamie Johal, I'm a Christian.
Yep.
And first thing he says, he had that attitude, less is more.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said, okay, I'm going to give you less money. You want less money? Okay. You know what I mean? Less is more.
Yeah.
How do you justify that? This is a bullshit that people want to accept. Okay, it's all overtraining. And I'm sure that you train probably much heavier than me, but I train quite heavy for my capacities.
Sure.
And I train honestly 6 days a week, 2 times a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I seldomly, maybe a couple of times a year, that I felt like, I feel overtrained. Actually, today, Jamie's supposed to train. Yesterday, I trained him, and I've seen the sign of overtraining. So it's okay. Today's your day off. Yeah. I mean, but in general, how the people answer on YouTube or Instagram, overtraining, too much volume. I mean, come on, man. Yeah. You can push your body to adapt to this or that. Right. Yeah. So I tell everyone, look, you won the pro shows, so you know what it takes. Mm-hmm. Okay. You took years to get it. But if I work with some new pro, is this my job to compromise or maximize?
No,
okay?
Maximize, yeah.
So then if I maximize and I tell them, okay, this is how, and they look at me, oh, but I give them usually, if they train just once a day, I give them 2-1, 2-1, 2-1 for a while, and then maybe I can squeeze 2-2-1, stuff like that.
Can we wait before you skip through that? Let me just, because people are watching, I want to get a little bit more detail about that. So what does that mean? Like if you have a guy come to you, what does 2-1, 2-1 mean? What does that mean?
2-1 means 2 workout sessions a day.
Okay.
First Monday, 1 on Tuesday,
okay.
2 on Wednesday, 1 on.
So you flip it back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. Yeah, because you see, I'm strong believer, and now I'm gonna actually for the first time ask, because you have a hostile supplements.
Yeah.
So you have belief in intra-workout supplementation, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something, I don't know if you're aware of. I pioneered back in
Yeah, so John told me that.
Yeah, so I believe in intra-workout supplement, because what do I create during a training? Anabolic state of the body.
Sure.
Okay, so why bodybuilders train? To be anabolic, to build. So now if I have one opportunity a day or 2 opportunities, so if somebody would ask me, if you would ask me now, okay, Milos, what do you think is better? I want to win Mr. Olympia. Should I train twice or once? I would, of course, have you train twice. For me, it's a no-brainer. Of course, you have to support it nutritionally and time everything perfectly. So with your supplements that you have, obviously, you would, and that's why I said send a double dosage to Samsung. I believe in this. Now you can trust, if you color your essential aminos in the black, right? And they drink during a training, whoop, their biceps going to become black, right? You transport inserted, like nail it.
Yeah.
So this is kind of things, what I said. The second thing that nowadays people are complaining too much volume, overtraining, and I don't believe in that. And why? Because I did it for 15 years straight. I did with Hidetari Magishi, with Dennis Wolf, with anybody that came to me, Johnny Jackson, you name it. I would put them honestly on that. Dennis James, twice a day.
Can I ask you, so I like to play devil's advocate on the podcast so that we can get more information. So I did 2-a-day training, I think the last 4 or 5 weeks for a few of my preps, because I didn't want to do extra cardio. So instead of doing cardio, I would train in the morning, I would eat a meal, train in the morning, eat a couple more meals, and go back and train again. And then I might do like a little bit of cardio at night before bed. So I found that those were my best looks. I looked incredible for those shows. And I found that I burned fat better training than I did doing cardio. The problem is when I try it in the off season, inevitably it happened that after 4 or 5 weeks, I would start to feel run down. I would start to get more pain in my tendons. I would start to feel like more tired, and I could keep going. If you told me, hey, you have to keep going, I could keep going. But this is where I think the problem, I do believe in overtraining. I think there's 2 types. I think there's like chronic overtraining where it's there, but because you're crazy, you can push through it. Or there's acute overtraining where you're like, I just feel dead today. I can't sleep properly. I don't want to fuck my wife. I don't want to, my appetite is gone. All these things, right? So, so what I'm trying to say is, do you agree that those 2 things exist, or do you think it's just because the nutrition is so far off that it's not compensating?
It does, but I'll tell you. Okay, this is super interesting. Okay, first you said those are your best looks when you did train high volume 2 times a day. Okay, best looks, beautiful. But then you say, okay, you finish the contest and then you try to do this in off season, and you kind of feel you're tasking your body too much, and maybe it was overtraining. And I accept it because you are for real. You're the pro champion. I respect you a great deal. That's your real, honest to God experience. But I had hundreds of others that I listen and I observe. So there are many things. First, look, if you don't have enough rest, enough sleep, you have a stress, then you in order to have that second workout, and you have to go with some stimulants, and then you burn your adrenals in process.
Yeah.
Adrenal exhaustion and adrenal, burning your adrenals for sure is going to make you feel like, and you're going to feel overtrained.
Yeah.
So honestly, I didn't do any stimulants for like last 10 years of my career. Wow. I didn't, because I started with it, back in the late 80s, Dimetadrine 25 came about. That was ephedrine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you can buy it. So training with Sonny was like, oh yeah, take one, then take two, then take three, and then you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Next thing you know, you're trashed. This is why, okay, if I have to reduce the volume in one workout and have two smaller workouts, I would much rather do that, because I have this windows of anabolic opportunity.
Sure.
Twice a day. I'm going to just push nutrients into the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
For that reason, because when I talk about hyperemia advantage system, increased blood flow happens to the muscle only when you train.
Yeah.
So you have a store, you want people to come into the store and buy your supplements or whatever store you have.
Yeah.
You want those people to come in. So the same thing is your blood is going into the muscle so effectively. 60-70% of the blood goes in the muscle only during a training.
Yeah.
So do I want to have just one opportunity, or I'm going to load that blood with all the anabolic, anti-catabolic, fat-burning nutrients, whatever I find beneficial that you have in your supplements, and push them into the working muscle. And every muscle contraction opens up the cells for uptake. So if the volume is too much, okay, I break it. I take it to smaller workouts.
Yeah.
But I have this, you probably don't know my diet. My diet consists of 3 phases. Fat burning phase.
1 minute. 1 minute before you get into diet, because I do want to get into diet, but just 1 second. So what you're saying is, and John used to stress this to me a lot. John would say, you can dig a hole, but make sure you can get out of it. He said, don't dig the hole so deep that you're stuck. Because the way I train is like, you just said like, you'd rather train less. So like maybe 80% instead of 100. Every workout for me is 100. And John used to want me to train 6 days a week. 4 of those days would be 100. 2 of those days would be like 75. But I never knew how to do 75. So I would just do all 6 at 100 and I would be trashed by the end of the week. So I think what you're saying then is, when I was doing the 2-a-days, I was probably going too hard. And that's why I was ending up in the gutter. Yeah. So you're saying 2-a-days are better even at 75.
Yes.
Than one session at 100.
Yes. Well, absolutely. Look, so here is that, now we're gonna maybe contradict, because I was saying before, like, all out, you go to the failure and stuff like that. But I remember, Bill Pearl, yes. Bill Pearl, phenomenal author. So I remember one time when I talked to him and I talked this about the failure, and he goes, Milos, why would you want to fail in anything? Mm-hmm. And that's okay. We're going to talk to, what do you call it, with Lee Haney, how simulate, don't annihilate.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that Brad Schofield, the scientist, hypertrophy is showing more and more with you don't have to really push. Yeah. Same hold on. right here.
That's the same book. Yeah. Brad Schofield. Yeah, for sure. So I appreciate Brad, and I bought his Maximal Hypertrophy first one, and it's a very, very good book. But okay, you just said something, and I could assume this about you. You look like a guy that is all out, 100% or nothing. Yeah. You are. Yeah.
But when I talk to now guys and say, what does it really mean pushing all out? That means that not just your muscle are going to go all out, your tendons and ligaments are going to go all out, and you're going to just hope to God that they're going to handle it, right?
Yeah.
And my father back in the day, not a psychiatrist, doctor, scientist, I mean, really, he was telling me, you have to understand, body is not designed to be pounding like this day in, day out, years after years. It's just a matter of when, which I didn't want to believe. Like, hold on a second. You're talking in general, doctor and the average person. We bodybuilders, I'm going to train twice a day, 6 days a week for 20 years. I'm going to be prepared for it. I'm not going to, guess what?
Yeah.
So when you turn 40 and then every joint, every tendon, and any ligament, right? So Serge Nubret, back in the day, I talked to Serge many times. I've seen him train. He never pushed all out. Mohamed Ben Aziza, Kerry Pastel, I watched them. Okay, so we would like to believe that you have to go above, to really stimulate and create this muscle damage, to create that proliferation of satellite cells. I don't like, scientists, they're going to talk this, but you and I and other pro bodybuilders, we, theory and practice, we saw it.
Yeah.
Do you or I have to do the double-blind study in university to say this works, it doesn't work? Let them do this.
Yeah.
We know what it works. But if one message I can send to the guys, as John was saying, dig the hole that you can get out. I never heard that before. I love it. Yeah. Because if you go there, then what? But same thing on this all-out effort. I mean, I love Jan Valier. I respect him. I'm terrified when I watch him do this super heavy weight.
Deadlift like 8 plates. Yeah. It's scary. Yeah. I agree. I get scared too. Yeah.
So what do you do? Now I'm an old timer, right? So I want to give him a good advice. I told Sean Clarita when he was here at the opening of a Flex Lewis's gym, I said, Sean, for the love of God, you're picking up the dumbbell heavier than you, and you're pushing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's true.
And then when I told this to Ronnie Coleman, I said, Ronnie, knowing if you knew then what you know now, would you train lighter? He said, no. I mean, he goes, that was light for me. And then you put in perspective, I guess. I mean, and it looks like if Sean can do like 10 reps with 200 pounders, like, who am I to say like ease up on it? Yeah. But that's the problem, right? So when I've said to Iain before, and I hate to keep using Iain as an example, but I've said to Iain before, hey man, like that's a lot of weight. Like maybe you should ease up, especially like a couple weeks out from a show. You should probably ease. He's like, it doesn't feel heavy. So the point I'm trying to make is to those guys listening out there that are like, okay, maybe Milos is right. Maybe I shouldn't go to failure. Maybe I shouldn't go too heavy. But if I do 4 plates on the bench press and it feels light and I do it for 12 reps, maybe I have to go to 4.5. Like, how do you, what I'm trying to say is like, how do you limit somebody who's that strong? Like when you see James, like I trained legs with James. We did 6 plates on the hack squat or something like that. I thought I was proud of myself. James comes, puts 4 more plates on. So I'm like, and he does it like 15 times. So it's like, how do you tell somebody who's doing 9 plates aside on the hack squat 15 times, you got to go lighter? Yeah, you can't. You can't. That's what I'm. So it's hard to pull back to somebody that can do it with such ease. Okay, so here is my point. Okay, and I've seen those guys. I don't know if have you heard the story when Ronnie Coleman came to my gym and asked me to do the back training with him? No. Because I repeat myself many times, and people say, "Come on, you're the old man that keeps same stories." It's okay. Tell. I haven't heard it. Tell me. Okay, so 2002, Ronnie Coleman comes to my gym. He was doing a photo shoots. So he's like, "Hey, bud, you want to train?" I said, "Okay. What are you training?" Back. I said, "Okay." So I go right after him. I said, "Okay, Ronnie, I'll do your training." So what are we doing first? T-bar rows, the one that you stick in a wall, and then okay. So I'm putting the 2 plates. I was ready to warm up with 2 plates, right? Yeah. Hey! What's that? I said, "What do you mean?" 6 plates warm up. Come on. 6 plates warm up, and in my gym we have not those thick ones, but the thin ones, the Eleiko weights. Yeah, the real ones. 9 plates second set, 12 plates third set. Okay. So going to the second exercise, bend over rows. Okay. Yeah. What do you think he starts with? 4. He starts with 4. I mean, shit. That's like a heaviest set is 4. He started with 4. Yeah. Hey, yep, boom, yep. And shit, man. I mean, like, and then he was very disappointed. I only had a 200-pound dumbbells because he can do forever. And then deadlifts. But anyway, next day when he was pulling into my parking lot, I like ran. I said, like, the side door, I ran. I said, Jesus. Yeah. But on a serious note, they're always the freaks. So now, both you and I and most of the community, we feel sorry for Ronnie because he's quite debilitated, okay? Sure. Because he was a warrior, he went for it. So James or somebody else that have that capacity, right? For me, the solution for it would be make the weight heavier by changing your tempo, changing your techniques.
Sure.
And I've seen this even with John Milos, now that you said. One thing that we kind of didn't agree, and then when he came to the gym, he was against super slow concentrics. Yeah. He would do slow eccentrics, but he wouldn't do concentrics.
Yeah, he taught me that.
Yeah, he was against it. And he says, like, yeah, you don't stimulate the high threshold motor units in it. I said, like, this is not strength training. This is a hypertrophy. So let me just put you on super slow concentrics on the hack squats, on the shoulder presses, on the Smith machine inclines and stuff like that. It's an absolute nightmare, especially if you drive nutrients with your hostile supplements. You have essential aminos, creatine, glutamine, ATP, glucose, all pushed down. I found great muscular hypertrophy responses with lowering the weight dramatically, doing it slower. And then, like I would say to Jamie, I'm sure you've seen some with the Reagan, once you unlock whatever you're doing, right? So you unlock your knees or elbows or whatever, you find that pain zone, and literally speaking, I want you now to be honest yourself. You feel the burn, create more burn. So only you can determine what is going to create that more burn. So you go just inch down, but you stop a little bit, and it's burning even more profoundly. Then a little bit, and dig yourself. And now when you have that crazy burn, right, you don't get out of it. You stay there. So for me, for the guys like that, I would still make them fail on the 6, 7, 8 repetitions. Doesn't matter.
I see.
With a lesser weight, increase intensity by changing tempo, grip, speed, these kind of things. Because I think for longevity reasons, because
for longevity reasons, you're 100% right. Obviously, if you can use lighter weight and build the same amount of muscle, your joints and tendons are going to thank you later in life.
Yes, I think so, because all of us, jumping from a high-rise building and feels great falling.
Yeah.
Oh, great, until you hit the ground. Yeah. And I'm guilty of that myself. I mean, there is no joint that I have nowadays that can say it's saved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this kind of, and you are epitome of raw, brute strength and power. So I can imagine when you go to the gym. Okay, another question for you and for everybody else. When you do the bench press and you say you do this 4.5 plates or 5, right?
Yeah.
Is it any way possible that you're focusing on a chest and muscle contraction?
No.
Or you just say, push that sucker off my chest, right?
Well, wait a minute. So for someone like Iain, and I've seen this, and I know exactly what you're talking about. For the most average people, I don't say average people, but average pros, when you're doing 4 plates or 5 plates, it's probably really, really heavy, and you're probably more focused on just going from A to B instead of actually feeling the rep. But for someone like Iain, I've seen them do this, like on the Smith machine or James. When they have 4 or 5 plates, they still look like they're feeling the entire rep.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that there are a million ways to make 3 plates feel like 4 or 5 plates. So I get your drift. I get what you're saying. It makes total sense. And I do agree that when you're trying to lift maximum weight, it's hard to feel the fibers like you would if you're using a lighter weight. And it's funny. I just had this conversation with Nick Walker and Roman Fritz on the podcast. They are actual proponents of training slow and feeling like, they still train heavy, but like Roman, for example, squats 4 plates. he said I could squat 6, but I squat 4, and he does it with like perfect form and a very slow speed. And I also want to say too that John was the one who taught me like do explosive concentrics. So I've never even tried to do a slow concentric. So
Yeah.
I always do a slow eccentric, but I always do an explosive concentric.
Yes.
So I've never.
Okay. So here with as you know, greatest respect and love for John Meadows. Okay.
Of course.
I think that we agree. John was most loved person in the whole industry.
Yeah, definitely.
And most respected. And I love him. And I mean, he gave me the credit so many times. I mean, to the point that I was embarrassed. Yeah. So hold on a second. I lost my chain of thought. What was
We're talking about eccentric and concentric.
Eccentric, concentrics. Okay. So there is you maybe listen to him and say, okay, I just need to do explosive concentric. And most of the people go with this. If you have 4 numbers, right? First number is seconds on the way down. Yep. Second number is in a stretch position, concentric, and a shortened position. So yep. I don't know if you've seen like Charles Poliquin would do like 4, 0, 1, 1, and stuff like these kind of things. Yep. And then when you go to these numbers, you know, many people don't realize. So you have 4 different options. You can prolong eccentric, not maybe just 4 seconds. I do 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, you know, do the prolong. Okay. So now when you're in stretch position, there is that obvious stretch overload hypertrophy method. There is a lot of research actually done just on a stretched overload. So in a fully lengthened position, you can stay lengthened for 1 second, 2, 3, 4, 10, you know?
Yeah, me and John used to do pause reps, like we hold in the stretch. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I know, because John, he has advanced mind and he was thinking all those kind of things. Yeah. He just didn't like concentric slow. So I like slow concentrics. I would encourage anybody that is listening to this to do some exercises. Slow concentrics is unbelievable. Do slow concentrics or biceps curls, preacher curl, whatever, on shoulder presses, on incline, Smith machine presses, on anything for legs, hex squats, pendulum squats. Many people go slow down, but very few go slow up. Mm-hmm. Go slow up with 0 momentum, your quads are gonna explode.
Okay.
And then, so there is 4 points and peak contraction at the end, right? And it's peak contraction when you squeeze. And a lot of people squeeze for a second or 2, but nobody squeezes for longer, 3, 4, 5, 10. And you're going to probably say that also many people, they use just as much contraction as needed to move the weight, but could they squeeze harder? Yeah. Yes. So there is a time under the tension, time under maximal tension. When I was telling Regan, okay, I can see him squeeze, but I see that he didn't maximally squeeze. So we call it super squeeze, right?
Okay.
So I think by playing with those, you can reduce the amount of weight, save your joints, and a career like Dexter Jackson had. Yeah. Right? I mean, this is kind of message that I wanted to send.
No, it's a very good point. So I want to move to, we've already been on an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long.
I have all day. I don't know how much you have.
Oh, I got time. I want to talk about diet because I want to, people are inevitably going to wonder, how do I set up my diet? How do I set up my supplements if I'm going to train twice a day?
Yes. Okay.
So can you walk me through what a day looks like when I'm training twice a day?
Yes. Okay. So ideally it would be training after the second meal and training after the 4th meal. This is how I would structure it, right? So for me, from the very early stage of my career, protein intake was a must. I had to overload. I started with 1 gram, 2 grams, 3 grams. I went to 4 grams per kilo. You're Canadian, right? So you go by kilos or pounds. Well, 4 grams of protein per kilo.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's going to be like
500 grams of protein a day. Yeah. You know, this is what I was, pretty much averaging 450 to 550 a day. Now, okay. You're going to say also, because you didn't do it as much, it's not necessary, okay? And a lot of people got away with much less because research has shown you don't need it, but okay.
Well, just for a minute, I actually did do 500 because I was working with Chad Nichols, and he had me eating like yeah.
And how much did you weigh?
Oh, well, I kept increasing. I mean, on stage, I was 235, 240, and I was eating like 500 grams.
So you were doing a 4 grams per kilo. Yeah. I mean, you see, and I have many guys that actually experimented. I have even guy, Andy Bell, goes 5 and 6 grams. Listen, for me, I said this in my early videos back in Secrets of the Pros when I was advising. 3 grams per kilo, is what bodybuilders should do. And if you really want to push it, have 4, because all the macronutrients that you're going to have is either building or energy nutrients, right? Mm-hmm. Building nutrient is only protein. The amino acids that you have, that's the only building. So this is the only thing that can build my body. Okay. And here's fat and carbs, energy. I spend the energy, good. I can spend it or store it. I do want to store carbohydrate as a glycogen. I do not want to store fat. So I have to be specific.
Yeah.
I am on the belief that bodybuilders should have a high protein, high carb diet.
Okay.
Stay away from fat. All these keto diets are produced because people got fat, and keto is very efficient to burn body fat. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But there's no way that keto is highly anabolic. There's no way. You cannot maximize your anabolic potential with keto diet. Carbs are needed for muscle, for contraction. You don't have it, you're not going to grow.
Can I play devil's advocate for a minute? So there's going to be two types of people. One is John. John used to believe in high fats, or at least moderate fats, because I know I had a couple of really, really good off seasons where we did moderate carbs, moderate fat, and a little bit higher protein, but not really high. But the more common argument is going to be, well, why does my protein have to be so high if carbs and fats are protein sparing? Yeah, I could eat more carbs and I could increase my fats and have a little less protein.
Perfect. Nobody mentioned that before. Protein sparing. What does it mean? Sparing. Okay. So back in the day, when they would give like branched chain amino acids and suggest you to use intra-workout for sparing effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but you use amino acids to spare it. Okay. The protein is going to be converted into the carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Only if there is a lack of carbs and need of carbs.
Yeah, exactly.
So gluconeogenesis, conversion of protein into the carbs, only happens if you have a lack of.
Sure.
So it's not like carbs are there and they have a protein sparing. Yeah. If lack of carbs would cause protein sparing, but sufficient carbs can never do that. You see, body reacts.
But wait a minute. One sec. So you're saying, let's say I'm taking in 500 grams of protein a day, or sorry, carbs. Let's say I'm taking 500 grams of carbs. You're saying if I take in 500 grams of carbs and 300 grams of protein, my body is going to use those 300 grams of protein to build muscle.
Yes.
If I'm taking in 400 grams of protein, I'm going to use the 400 grams.
Quite possibly, yes. Listen, if you initiate the stimulation through training, okay, it's like, we need 10 bricks to build a doghouse. Yeah. But we need a much more to bigger house and castle. So with continuous stimulation through the training and cause for increased protein synthesis, muscle protein synthesis, right?
Yeah.
I am giving you amino acids in your bloodstream constantly, 24 hours a day, sufficient amount that if body can utilize it to build it, it's there. So when the protein converts in the carbs, in a lack of carbohydrates. So this is what not too many scientists has experienced super high protein intake with a sufficient amount of carbs. Sure. They would, replace the calories and I
understand what you're saying. So, but the main point is the amount of protein that you're taking in with that amount of carbs is only beneficial because you're training twice a day.
Yes. I mean,
you wouldn't feed somebody 500 grams of protein and 500 grams of carbs and then tell them to train once every other day.
No. I mean,
the frequency of training has to exist, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, frequency of training, and that's why. I mean, I was going to discuss my diet, but just said, let's do this later, because I have a fat burning phase, maintenance phase, and anabolic phase. Okay. So maintenance phase would be for these people that train once a day and then next day, a day off. Maintenance, you just maintain what you have, right? What you have, I give you enough calories, protein, carbs, and fat from one meal to another. So you have a protein requirement throughout the day.
Sure.
But when you train, now your macronutrients changes. Now you have that anabolic phase. Okay, so now I'm going to create a stimulus. I can initiate protein synthesis in the muscle. I need more building material, which is only protein. Okay, but I'm going to have a sufficient amount of carbs for that. Now, I agree that John liked some fats. If you have moderate fats and moderate carbs, as long as you have enough carbs to do all these muscle contractions, there is never a compromise that now protein has to be converted. If you have sufficient amount, I would much rather lower the carbs than lower the protein, you know, for me. So for me, first constant is high protein. And for you, you said 500 grams of protein. That's only 2,000 calories. Fouad, right? It's only 2,000 calories. So now, if you said that many guys, Iain and James, they were doing 5,000 calorie diet, right? It's okay. That's 2,000. Have another 500 carbs, for example. That's another 2. That's only 4 still, right? And they have another 110 grams of fat there, which is quite a bit of fat, to equal 5,000, right?
Exactly.
So when you really analyze the numbers, this is when people, in general, I don't need that much protein. So for me, is what would you prefer to know? You have 24 hours a day at all times, influx of amino acids in the bloodstream. Constantly, it's there. So you need it for a hair, for a skin, for a muscle, for organs. It's there, right? If amino acids are lacking when you need to build a muscle, you're compromising, okay? So I would much rather have a sufficient, and then if not needed, okay, which who has determined when amino acids are no longer needed? You know, this is why these scientists, they never took pro bodybuilder that want a maximal hypertrophy to see how much protein you would need. You
could use,
so I tell you, you probably heard that story with Nasser Al-Sambadi. Nasser Al-Sambadi came 94 to my house. He saw my journals on a desk, and he's reading it. He said, "Oh, you eat 500 grams of protein? You're smaller than me, and I eat 250." And then I asked him, "Okay, Nasser, so 250 for a guy like this, that's the only building nutrient. How are you going to build your muscle?" So immediately, 94 to 95, if I take 500, he's going to take 600. So he was taking 600 grams of protein, right? And you see what happened. You know, 94 Olympia, 95 Night of Champions. Most of my guys, they're going to be listening, they can confirm with you, I go extremely high protein, 3 grams per kilo, 4 grams. Okay. So if I divide this in a frequent small meals, okay, and the choice of protein, because you're going to write it, I have lean protein source before the meal, okay, and fatty protein source, eggs, salmon, beef, right? You know, the one before that. So it has some time to digest. But before, you know, so first.
So before training, you mean? So before training, you have your lean protein.
Lean protein with a bunch of complex carbs. You know, a bunch of complex. I'm sure that you're doing the same thing. So first meal in the morning can be high protein, high fat. Okay, and if somebody is lean, I give you carbs as well. If you're not lean, I'm gonna skip the carbs right there. Okay, because here you don't maybe need it. So that's the maintenance phase. Okay, but now one meal before and 2 meals after, that's anabolic phase. Okay, and as I have this, those are lean protein, bunch of carbs, intra-workout, simple carbs, amino acids, creatine, glutamine, beta-alanine, citrulline, everything, right? Post-workout, quick carbs with the protein. Okay, I like post-workout shake. And then these 2 meals as 6 hours at least after the training, your body still replenishes everything that happened. So physiological preference of the body in this 6 hours is still muscle. It's not elsewhere. So all the food that I'm giving is preferentially going to the muscle tissue, not other tissues.
Sure.
But then, boom, I have another workout.
The training again.
Okay. Yeah. And then I have 2 more meals, one more with the high carbs, and then the next one can be higher fat with the protein. Yeah. So this is my 6 meals, and what I do also to ensure those amino acids flow. In between meals, often I give my athletes 10 grams of creatine, 10 grams of glutamine in between meals.
Okay.
To even further enhance.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if you experimented to put creatine as well throughout the day.
I haven't.
Listen, I tell you this also, it's in a chain of thought. In 97, there was an athletes meeting in Weider in Salt Lake City. There was 20-something, Chad Nichols, Landon Murray, Sean Ray, everybody. And there was Dr. Feliciano, and there was Jim Wright. There was many. Okay. And that was when creatine was popular. And then they started talking about creatine, okay?
Yep.
So they said, should you use the creatine for the contest? And everybody was, no, it makes you hold water and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay, listen, but creatine phosphate would replenish adenosine triphosphate. ATP is what? It's cellular energy. It's inside the cell. So wouldn't you want to hydrate intracellularly? Okay.
Yeah.
So just because nobody has done it, 97 for Canada Pro that I won, and 97 Night of Champions I placed second to Chris Cormier, I did 60 grams of creatine every single day the whole week.
The last week, all the way to the show. And I have it. I mean, I have that journal. I can prove it to you guys. Yeah. And I felt full as a house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is that fear of people. Ooh, I don't. Okay.
Still over. I don't want to be watery. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you are normally and applying this, so for my guys, we established this. I want them to keep lean in off season, so then you can watch it. Yeah. So not just that 4 grams of protein per kilo. I would give them that creatine, glutamine, the essential amino acids, sometimes even throw in leucine before workout and after. But I saturate with shitload of amino acids. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I am 100% convinced that if I train you, you would be maximally potentially anabolic. So if you create a reason for a body to synthesize protein in your muscle through the training, it's going to synthesize, guarantee. You're not going to lack any of amino acids. Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen some of those presentations. I don't want to be too complicated, but this is inserted in me. My father, when he told me, listen, when you build any tissue, right? Muscle tissue has this code, and this. So code for muscle tissue would be, okay, here is arginine, here is ornithine, here is lysine, methionine, isoleucine, leucine. So your body is, when it's synthesizing, brings this one here. The next one, messenger ribonucleic acid goes, transport brings it. Boom, boom. Okay, next. Boom, boom. Next. Boom, boom. Well, shit. If this is missing, methionine, for example, it stops. Yeah. So for me, at that time, when I realized, muscle protein synthesis, and if I compromise and something is missing, I'm missing out. So for me, that's why initially, essential amino acids, the most important supplement you can have. Sure. Because non-essential aminos, your body can produce it if needed, like this. Yeah. So I hope I'm answering some questions. So first, I saturated you with enough protein, enough amino acids at all time. Now, I'm making sure that you're not calorie deficient, because if you're calorie deficient, you're compromising. It's no longer maximizing. Yeah. Okay? I give you enough for the next meal. Now, next meal before the workout, I'm going to bring all these carbs because I'm going to trash you through the workout. Sure. So, Charles Poliquin is the first person that asked me directly, Milos, how much carbs you think, how much glycogen you can burn in your intense training?
Yeah.
And I really didn't have a idea there. I was like, okay, 100, 150, right? So he showed me some studies, like 200 grams of glycogen can be used in an intense training session.
Wow.
Like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Okay. 200. And what he was doing back in the day, he would give 200 grams of dextrose immediately after the workout to replenish muscle glycogen that you have lost.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, if 200 you're going to burn, imagine, right?
Yeah.
This is how much glucose and a glycogen you can have. So I have some coming from a meal before, such a complex carbs. And then I'm maintaining the glucose level during a workout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So devil's advocates are going to tell me, but Milos, normal glycemia is 70 to 90 milligrams per deciliter, right? So you at all times you have like 5 grams of glucose in the blood.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's a normal glycemia. It's not carbohydrate utilization.
Okay.
So I trigger all this carbohydrate release and insulin release, obviously.
Yeah.
And when insulin is in the blood, it takes everything out of the blood to first available tissues and cells.
Sure.
And the only cells and tissues available are muscle cells during a training. Blood is only in the muscle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like dumping everything right here, dumping in the muscle. So how can that be wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I started initially, and I see it works, right? I didn't do the university study, but obviously you believe in the system because you created the supplements according to this.
Yeah.
So this is my message to the people, because, okay, devil's advocate, there was naysayers. I would tell you, please try it if it makes sense.
The problem is you're saying a training session can burn 200 grams of carbs, and that may be true if it's your training session. But there's going to be a variable, right? That's a huge variable between the way this guy over here trains and this guy over here trains, right? This guy may burn 50 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
But he's going to take 200 because Milos said so. So now he's got 150 grams extra every day, and now he's fat by the end of the week. So,
I'm not saying everybody should go to 200, but even, you see, for me, I was underusing it before I found out from Charles Poliquin, and I greatly respect him. God bless his soul. He is phenomenal. But, that puts a little bit things in perspective, right?
Yeah.
So I would give, like you said, first, initially 50 grams of carbs intra-workout.
Yeah.
Because I'm counting, you already have some pre-workout, let's say 75 or 100 grams of carbs. I know that John Meadows was doing a little bit less.
I was actually going to ask you. So John used to have me do 50 pre, 100 during, 50 post. Okay. At my peak, like when I was my biggest, he would be like, okay, we would work up to it, right? We would start with 25, 25, 25, and then he would build it up. At the very most, we would do 50, 150. And I didn't feel like I got fat. Like I felt like I was like it. I really felt big. I didn't feel fat, but the rest of my diet had to be very clean.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
you see, so we are focusing on John. This is anabolic phase.
Yeah.
In anabolic phase, this is allowed.
Sure.
This is allowed because here, simple carbs and insulin release is going to be your best friend. Somewhere else, it's going to be a worse enemy. You don't want a simple carbs. You don't want a insulin dump, and then it's going to dispose to first available cells and tissues. It's not going to be muscle tissue.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So I found that cluster dextrin is the only thing I can use. Like if I use, and not to knock any other companies, Carbolin or Vitargo or like even Dextro. I used to do dextrose for a long time. Yeah. It just sits in my stomach too long. So if you have people use carb powder, do you give them an option or do you have a choice like what you like?
This is interesting that you say that. I 100% believe you. So I was also following this gastric emptying osmolality, the hypertonic. Yeah. And so they were saying dextrose would be sitting in the stomach, draw the fluid. Yeah. And I tell you, there was Dennis James, Dennis Wolf, Tyler, Sylvia Samuel, everybody's in my gym, and they were all doing these drinks. So my staff would have to give them pre-workout, intra-workout They were supposed, and they ran out at that time of the Vitargo. We were using Vitargo, but that was the original Vitargo from Sweden, and it was really dissolving very easily. And they ran out, and they were terrified to tell me, but because they knew that they have to put enough carbs, why? Yeah. So they were putting a dextrose in, like 100 grams of dextrose. For 3 days before the Vitargo came, and none of the guys actually felt the difference.
They didn't know.
So they didn't know.
Wow.
And then they were okay. You see now, my ex-wife was okay. So you're talking about this high molecular weight glucose polymer being so much better, favorable. Yeah. But none of you felt the difference. So then I said, like, listen, okay. I give people a chance. They try dextrose. Dextrose is the cheapest, but if you have stomach issues and you feel bloated, obviously you change.
I found if I'm dieting and I'm on low calories, I can process a lot of different carb powders. Mm-hmm. But I found in the off season, when I'm eating more calories, I have to use a cluster dextrin. If I do Vitargo, for some reason, I'm okay with, but only for like 3 weeks, and then it starts to bother me. I don't know why. It like gets to a point where it gets to me. So anyway,
you listen to your body. Yes, you listen to your body. That's the greatest thing. Okay, I would tell everybody, as soon as you feel some compromises, no, switch to. So highly branched cyclic dextrin works for you. Perfect. It's great product by all means. It's just maybe a little bit pricey. So some people, when they're on the budget, you say, if you would ask me, what would I prefer? That you buy great essential amino acid product and a cheap dextrose, or a cluster dextrin, and not. I would tell you, essential amino acids are more valuable.
I used to buy back in the day, but this was post workout because Chad used to have me do a post workout dextrose, and I think we did some insulin in my off days, but he would have me do dextrose, and dextrose is just corn sugar. So I would go to the bulk barn. We have a store here called the Bulk Barn where everything comes in like you scoop it into a bag, and I would get corn sugar or cornstarch, whatever it's called, for $8 a pound.
Yeah.
And that's how much I could do. Like my dextrose was like all this.
Yeah.
It was so cheap.
It was right there.
But honestly, my gut was a mess. Like every time I did, because we would do like, I don't know, 10 IUs of insulin and then like 100 grams of dextrose, and my stomach was out to fucking here.
No good.
So
no good. I mean, but you just mentioned something interesting. You were doing insulin on off days.
Yeah. So one off season. So just so you know, personally, I don't like insulin at all. I don't. Yeah. It's never really felt good for me. Yeah. But in my early career, when I worked with Chad at 20, I think I was 28, 29, we put on a lot of size. It worked. But I also feel like that was the year my stomach got a little bigger. So I don't know. But anyway, he would have me do 2 days of insulin, and they were both my off days. So we would do like on those off days, we would do 2
every
or 3
8 hours.
We would use Humulin R, but it was 3 times a day. So we do morning.
Every 8 hours.
Yeah. So we would do those two, and then I would go back to the gym full as a house the next day, and I would have this like crazy training session for 2 days or 3 days, and then I would do it again on my off day. So it worked, but the part that didn't work is that year I noticed my stomach went from, because in my early career, like if you look at 2009 Houston Pro maybe, or 2008, my waist was small and I had very stacked abs. And then I believe after that insulin year, my stomach started to get thicker. Now, I don't know if it's because my whole body started to grow, or if it's just because of the insulin, it distended my stomach. I don't know, but I did notice a difference in my waist in that time.
But see, you had a discomfort, obviously. You said when you take a 10 units and 100 grams, you felt. You see, that should not happen. So if you did with your cyclic dextrin,
cluster dextrin,
I do believe that would be a completely different story.
Yeah.
And but here, because you're against it, and I see a lot of people label me, insulin here. But look, insulin is anabolic hormone, right?
Sure.
So testosterone, anabolic steroids, anabolic hormones. You want to use them? You don't want to use them? Yeah, you want to use them to be more anabolic. So insulin adds to equation. Okay, so this is why I did it. And what does it do? It stores all the nutrients, ATP, glucose, aminos, right?
So the problem that I had though was, and we'll get into your protocol because I'm actually interested in knowing what it is, but just to briefly tell you, the problem I had was I would have amazing workouts for a week or two, and then I felt like it didn't do anything. So I would start off at like 5 IUs pre-workout. Then I would have to do 8 IUs pre-workout. Then I have to do 10 IUs pre-workout. And next thing I know, I'm like, the certain coach is like, well, we got to go to 15 IUs. I'm like, I don't want to do 15 IUs every single day because I don't feel like I'm getting the same pump from it. And I just think I'm getting fatter. I'm sweating more when I train. I look softer. My appearance looks shittier. And I don't feel like I'm getting the same feeling from it. So I was like, I just no matter what arrangement I tried, if I tried it pre-workout, if I tried it every other day, if I tried it only on lagging body part days, inevitably, I always felt like after a certain period of time, I never got the benefit from it. And my body got softer. So,
okay. So what is the highest amount that you used?
15 IUs 3 times a day. That was
3 times a day.
Yeah.
But that's okay. 3 times a day is not necessarily.
That wasn't every day. It was twice a week.
Twice a week, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like on the off days. But
yeah.
You didn't do the pre-workout, post-workout.
The most I did pre and post was 10 IUs. 10 IUs.
So listen, okay, this is really how it works. And this is touchy subject because there's someone going to point the fingers. When you have a supraphysiological amount, more than your body would normally produce, this is when you can expect supraphysiological results. So if you do just a little, if you take 100 grams of sugar and then your beta cells produce so much insulin and it's going to be so much, this is something that your body is quite used to, okay?
Sure.
But if you inject like 20 units, this is more than your body would normally produce. Now you have that extra effect. Now you have this something miracle that could happen. Of course, a lot of people would, but no, Milos just shoots the insulin and then covers with the insulin with the glucose. Yeah, listen, if you don't cover it, you go to hypoglycemia. You can go to coma and die. Of course. So when you use this much insulin, you must cover it to create an environment that your body is accustomed to. Yeah. Normally, you eat carbs first. Your blood sugar level increases, then your pancreas releases insulin. So in the blood, there is your glucose and insulin. And insulin brings down to normal. That's what it does. So if you inject first, okay, you better create appropriate glucose level.
Yeah.
So this is, one reason why to do it safely. But if you consider that you might burn up to 200 grams of glucose or glycogen during a training, right? So that's the amount of glucose is going to be used either from your blood glucose level or from stored glycogen.
Yeah.
And now, but insulin is there, right? You know that whatever is that, even triglycerides, insulin is not selective. Everything, ATP, glucose, aminos, is storing everything.
Yeah.
Where? In first available in muscle tissue. Yeah. So even psychology over physiology, if your mind can comprehend it, now this insulin is trapping glucose and putting in this biceps muscle cell that I just trained. And the next step and the next step and the next, So when you visualize it and then you look at it, you get the pump out of your mind, right? And then post-workout, you continue in this 6-hour period, right, that you keep replenishing.
Yeah.
Retention of that. This is why, most of the guys, I'm sure that you talk to some of my guys and maybe initially they would say that's great, but then they would have a complaint. They would have a complaint because it's hard to maintain this, for a long time. Yeah. But occasionally, on a weaker body part, when you want to create this crazy anabolism and saturation and insertion of the nutrients, it works miracles. I would really like you to try intra-workout, post-workout with 2020. The thing, because you're going to be quite shocked. I'm quite convinced, even you, a veteran of the sport that did this before, when you do it, it's going to be like, oh my God. Dennis James back in the day. Remember when I did with him 2020, and then we did twice a day. He blew up, and he was just sending me pictures. I can't believe, look what you did to me. I mean, he was
look what you did to me.
Yeah. I mean, you see, some people have that ability to just blow up, and depending on, of course, structure and everything else. So
I wish we did this 10 years ago. I don't think I can do it anymore. I have to watch out for my health, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, I understand.
No, I want to ask you though. So a little bit more specific, but not dose specific. I'm just curious. So in the 2-a-day training protocol, are you having your guys? Well, I don't want to say even you having your guys. Are you saying that you would do insulin pre both of those workouts, or pre, intra, post, or like how are you doing it for those 2 training sessions?
Yeah, listen, I did even that. I mean, I'm sure you heard Mike Cipriani complain about me putting him on this much, and that has something to do with his heart. It has no relations whatsoever, right? Look, when I want to create a super competitive pro bodybuilder, and we have 6 months to do it, and then you and I discuss, okay, you want to maximize, you want to minimize, optimize, what do you want? Okay, so on that note, if you're going to be so strict, meticulous, I can drive it with the insulin before and after. Okay, I would just adjust body part, small body.
But both workouts, or one of the two?
I did
you have
all
done
kinds
both.
of stuff. I did both. I did both. I'm not gonna lie that I didn't. I did many times because I want more. And then by the end of the week, observe. Okay, it's going in the right direction, right? So initially, everybody, this is crazy. But then it comes to the point of maybe saturation, So I could back off, and quite often I would back off and do no insulin, and then bring back the insulin when it's needed. It's not like everybody does it at all times. I had 4 guys competing in like Egypt. 2 guys were doing it, 2 guys were not doing it. I just, who needs it, and we have a great response. We do it.
Okay, couple more questions. So I just want to ask you one about Lantus, because I'm assuming you like to use very short acting insulin, but how do you feel about long acting insulin? Because I know it's popular in Europe, and I know a lot of people think, well, if I do the long acting, it's good for 8 to 12 hours, and if I do it, then I'm going to absorb my carbs for that whole time. Do you think it's stupid, or is it something that's?
Yes, this is a very good question, and I like your input on that. So if I tell you, I gave you short-acting Humalog that has an onset in 15 minutes, peaks in 45 to 75 minutes after, strong action 2 hours, and is out in 3 or 4. Okay. So this is the curve. Okay, this is, in this 4 hours, you are under the influence. And when you are under the influence, all the nutrients that you have would be stored where you want them to be stored, which if you do it before and after workout, the only muscle tissue is going to be exposed.
Sure.
When you do the long acting, that is here hours, insulin is not selective. It stores everything that is in the blood.
I see.
Everywhere that can be going, because hyperemia, increased blood flow to the muscle, is only during a training.
Sure.
Hours before and hours later, now you're exposed to agent that can store everything, including fat into the fat cells, more than normally, if you don't use it.
What would you say to somebody who said, but it's helping my pancreas because it's adding a little bit of insulin by itself? So what if you're not overeating? What if you're almost under eating?
Yes.
And you're taking it, so it's helping your pancreas take the insulin, take the carbs.
Okay, so listen, pancreas doesn't take the carbs. Pancreas releases insulin to take the carbs. Okay.
Yeah.
So the only thing is the danger of natural bodybuilders taking too much carbs, too much sugars, right? Because now they're overloading a pancreas, and beta cells have to produce so much to equal it. Yeah. So my theory long ago, which a lot of people agree, Dr. John Berardi, Mario Pasquale, if I inject the insulin, I save your pancreas. So now the insulin is there, your beta cells don't have to produce it. That's right. Negative feedback.
Yeah.
If, so on that note, I agree. But you see, I don't give you unnecessary carbs when you don't need it.
But
but that's a long acting. Let me just finish. I understand. You say the long acting, when you're going to inject it in the morning, right? It's going to help your pancreas. So pancreas, but what if you don't eat carbs?
Yeah.
If you don't eat carbs and you injected the insulin, it can drive you to the hypoglycemic episode.
But not the Lantus. Like, it's supposed to be like anti-hypoglycemic. Like, you don't really go hypoglycemic with it. Yeah, I'm not trying to belabor a point. I just curious because it's a thought process out there that you can eat a little less. You're not going to go hypoglycemic, and this will help drive whatever carbs you do take throughout the day. But I do see your point that if it's outside of the training window, you're going to drive fats as well.
Yeah. Okay. So you see, I'm going to be honest with you. Lantus, I never even tried it.
Okay.
I never tried because for me I tried back in the 90s. There was Humulin R, N, L, U. Okay. So N was a long acting. R was 8 hours in the system. N was comparable to. It's not like they don't get to hypo.
Yeah.
They peak. Much later, so you can get away with. Okay. But fate of all the nutrients that you have, right? Atlantis, far away from training, all the triglycerides, not just glucose. Listen,
everything.
You inject Atlantis, you're risking that any fat that you took, that's going to release triglyceride. That Atlantis is going to drive triglycerides into the fat cell.
I get it. Yeah. Okay.
So for me, that's a no-no. Would I want to be right now exposed? Okay, I took the Lantus, but I had some fats and shit. Lantus now might drive it, these triglycerides, but I don't need them. I don't want them, but because it's there, it's going to be more potent transfer into the fat cells. I don't want it.
No.
I know that Dave Palumbo likes it because they're counteracting GH, GH and insulin. So hyperglycemia caused by GH use, okay. So that's his purpose. But for me, you see, if I give you 2 workouts a day and I give you 2 insulin shots, you are exposed to a lot of insulin anyway. But honestly, I would probably do, if I make you do 2 workouts a day, only on the first workout, more than likely, or maybe before. And after the last one, I wouldn't bother because that's usually evening, and I'll let you get away with it. But to just clarify that, because I'm glad, and listen, you're very respectful, and you're not saying anything strictly. You just said you are against it, and many guys, I understand that James Hollingston is against it, and many other people are against it. And I agree. Okay, you're against it. Don't use it. But just comprehension of why I use it. I use it because it's an anabolic agent. Drives everything, and when you use it at the right time, it's best friend, not enemy.
Just for the record, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just personally haven't had a great experience with it, but I do know other bodybuilders that have had great experiences with it. So I know it works, and I just. Maybe for me, it's either I haven't done it the way it should be done or I haven't done enough. But it just, for whatever reason, for me, it wasn't the greatest experience. But no, I do understand that it definitely works. So to wrap up, Milos, I want to say something. I gave you credit on a podcast recently because, and I'll go all the way back to what we started with, which was, old timers talking about bodybuilding and everything. And somebody said to me on one of the Instagram posts, well, how are they supposed to get their opinion out, and what are they supposed to do if they can't say it on Instagram? And I said, the way to make change is to get involved and not just to make a post and then forget about it. And I gave you credit a couple of podcasts ago because I noticed, especially more recently, you're trying to help all the guys. You're helping Samson, you're helping Regan, you're helping all these different athletes. So I feel like when you're somebody who's in the sport and actually helping, you're allowed to say whatever you want because you're actually on the front lines, like trying to help these guys look better. So I give you a lot of respect for that. But what does it feel like to be in the in the mix with the modern day guys and helping them? Does it make you feel like the same competitive spirit that you had when you were involved yourself?
Yes. Listen, I'm really from a small city in former Yugoslavia, right? But mediocrity is common, right? And nobody's gonna encourage you to. When I told them I'm gonna go to America, be in Mr. Olympia, everybody was laughing, right? So for me, I came from that. I want to achieve, and I want everybody else to achieve. I would help every person on this earth if I can, right? Yeah. And I did. I don't want to mention this, but throughout the years, you guys don't know, I did many bodybuilders for free. They could not afford me. They wanted my help, and I did it. Of course, for business purposes, that's a nonsense. It's not good, right? Yeah. And how this normally works in life when you do it for free, it's not even appreciated. I had it many, many times. So I don't do it really for money. I do it for a passion of it. But of course, I have to respect my time and work, so I charge the people. Sure. But now, when I see the young bloods like Regan and Samson, Jamie, the Behruz Tabani, you've seen in a phenomenal bodybuilder, right? Yeah, I can associate with them because I was in their shoes. I felt that fire. I wanted to qualify for Olympia. And then when I was at Olympia, I want to compete at the highest level, right? And if I'm here to make some shortcuts, you see, the things that we are talking today right now, hopefully you see and the listeners can see, I'm passionate about it. Yeah. I want to maximize, and I'm true to myself. If I want to maximize, this is my chain of thought. This is how I analyze. And that's what I'm giving to my athletes to honestly help them. Yeah. You see, many of us, even when you said, when you criticize bodybuilders before the show and they don't like it, should you continue? For me, yes. My father always told me, do the right thing. So what is the right thing? I want to help. So I want to help. If my criticism can help them, and even initially they're not going to like it, when they maybe go home and when they think deeply, like let's say Akeem Williams, if he was offended that I told him about the stomach, later, if he can, why would Milos tell me this? He wants to joke with me, maybe it makes me, feel bad. Or he noticed, I noticed it too. So imagine if I tighten up the stomach with all this crazy muscle thickness, I can be much more competitive, right? Yeah, Same thing I told, I honestly, anybody that's going to criticize me left and right, find me one person that I tried to bring down. Even that time that Iain Valliere thought that maybe we had something. No, I didn't really want to bring him down. It was just, bro talk. You tease me and I respond to you and you're smart ass, I am smart ass back to you. This is what it ended up being, and it's stupid. For a record, I like him very much. The reason why I tell you, he blocked me. I had an interview, and he said, Iain, I was gonna send you the pictures. I took the pictures of him on a stage, and I was gonna send it to him so he sees what I'm talking about, that I'm not making it up. I said, I couldn't send you because you blocked me. and then he says, I blocked you because I don't want any negativity. I said, okay. This was the only reason, you see. But yeah.
Listen, Milos, I appreciate you taking the time. I have a newfound respect for you. I like, this is why I like doing this podcast, because I get to kind of dig in a little bit deeper about the person and their personality. And I feel like we have a very similar passion for bodybuilding. I'm gonna love bodybuilding till the day I die. No matter whether it's bad or good, and bad things happen and people get hurt, or good things happen. I love bodybuilding. I feel like you have the same passion for the sport. I envy the fact that you can help the guys the way you do, because I don't have the capacity to coach, so I do this instead. But I envy the fact that you can get out there and actually help the guys get on stage and help them look awesome. So
thank you. It shows, your passion shows. And if I can tell you, I was kind of bummed that you never invited me for a podcast, right?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Milos.
Seriously. Even many people ask me, say, well, maybe Fouad, and a couple of times, actually, I even made it on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm available anytime. But I understand that was at the time that maybe Iain was kind of sensitive about this. But listen, you are straight shooter. Iain is straight shooter. Everybody else. I mean, I can be involved in any of your conversations at any time. You can just see maybe different perspective, right?
Yeah,
now,
I love it.
Now you see that. Look, I would love to analyze all the physiques, and one thing that which version of Dexter beats Ronnie 98, like this kind of things, right?
Yeah.
You came out with this, and I love these kind of things.
Yeah.
So we can analyze this and that. You still never answered me when I asked you 93, Dorian or Flex.
Oh, you didn't let me answer.
Oh.
See, I thought you were making a point, because it's funny that you said that, because I've made this point numerous times. Somebody said to me, because people blame the athletes all the time nowadays. They're like, oh, the athletes are too big. The athletes are too bad. And I always say to them, it's not the athlete's fault. It's the judge's fault. There was a time in bodybuilding, and I always make that same comparison you said, in 93, when they could have chose Flex or Kevin Levrone or Sean Ray or Dorian Yates. And they chose Dorian Yates. And when they chose Dorian Yates, and they chose him over and over again, it sent a signal to the guys that they have to be bigger. And then when they chose Ronnie, it solidified the signal even further. And they chose Jay, and then they chose, so it's the judges that have dictated the size of the guys nowadays. Because you're right, they could have chose Flex, and everybody would have thought, oh, okay, I don't have to be massive, I just have to look pretty. So in my preference, the only thing I'll say is, I think everybody always says that Dorian Yates was only as impressive as he was if you saw him in person. And I never got to see him in person. So I don't feel like I'd be a fair judge if I said Flex Wheeler. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's hard not to pick Flex Wheeler in 93. But it's also, I can't even tell you who I would pick, to be honest. I've never even thought of that comparison. I'd have to sit and look at photos, because the young Dorian Yates was very, very impressive too, to me anyway. Yes. He didn't.
You see, I apologize. I didn't give you right. You see, I got too excited. Yeah. And then to make a point, you just keep going. So I didn't let you answer it. But
it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. I'm going to tell you this. I was 93 on the stage, backstage with Dorian and everybody else. I was there. And 1995, I was front row. Dorian was most peeled guy I have ever seen in my life, including Andreas Munzer.
Yeah.
95. Oh my God, this was so. Another thing that I must say, Dorian didn't have a single bad mandatory pose.
Yeah.
Every mandatory pose was excellent, right?
Yeah.
So I sometimes even feel guilty when but I would still pick Flex, right? Yeah. I would still pick Flex, and I said it many times. That was the worst thing that could happen to bodybuilding, because then judges really had to choose, and they chose this direction. And then many years later, they tried to go back to the other direction, Yeah. And then they did it briefly with Phil Heath.
Yeah.
And now go back to again.
But I don't know if but now, if you think about it, I don't know if they're actually picking big or beautiful. I think they're just going by judging criteria. Like if you look at Flex Wheeler and you look at Dorian Yates, you think to yourself, okay, who's more conditioned, who's more symmetrical, and who's more muscular?
Yeah,
it's Dorian Yates. Out of the three things, right? Would it not be Dorian Yates? If you're judging it strictly as a judge, not as not as your own preference.
Yes, but see, we would all like to believe if Frank Zane could win Mr. Olympia, right?
Yeah.
Being that small, and many guys would beat, like you said, Dorian beat Sean and Kevin and Flex in these other aspects. I mean, this aspect was glorified, and there was much more important. Listen, if I'm a judge, how can I ignore Big Ramy with the shoulders like this, twice as wide as anybody else?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I understand. But for me, especially the finals, I don't know if you were watching. At the finals, Hadi Choopan impressed me to the point, I mean, I told Dennis James, I said, listen, I think Hadi is getting it, tonight. But that's not the case. And
I I don't, if Hadi would have won, I don't think I would have complained, but I do see why they picked Rami.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. And listen, even if Brandon Curry won, I wouldn't have a complaint. I love Brandon's physique the best.
Yeah.
And I was just in Generation Ireland, and they asked me, okay, Milos, many people are putting Brandon Curry down for his legs and all these haters. And I said, like, listen, I love Brandon's physique and everything. But seriously, if you sometimes take a picture or video and cover upper body and you just see the legs and just compare the legs of all the people on the stage, you're going to see, okay, this is not Mr. Olympia winner. Right there. You cover the lower leg. So that balance has to be. So if I'm, of course, Brandon Curry, I would bomb those legs, and then it would be, a chance of winning.
Yeah. I mean, I think you get to a certain age and things maybe aren't going to change at that point. I mean, I think Brandon's in his late 30s, I believe, or even maybe 40. So I don't.
How old are you?
I'm 43. I think Brandon's. I think Brandon's late 30s.
What would you say if I ask you, when do you think you were at your peak and physically, mentally, athletically, the best?
35.
35. Yeah, 30. Yeah. I said 32 to 38.
Yeah.
This was the period.
Yeah. So I agree. But I think after 36, 35, 36, that's probably the biggest I was going to get. I didn't think I was going to get much bigger. Like after that, you start to kind of plateau and go the other way a little bit.
I mean, but I see your new pictures on the Instagram. You're in phenomenal shape. Yeah,
I'm getting skinny. I'm getting small.
No, but super. Are you going to compete?
No. I'm getting small, man. I'm going to go down to 230. I want to be nice and trim, nice and small small and athletic, healthy.
You look tremendous, by all means.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Listen,
Is there anybody or anything you want to say, or anybody you want to thank, or anything before we go? Not me. I mean, if there's any athletes.
No, it's just I kind of don't like when the bodybuilders thank the judges and thank the I never like that. For me that was even though everybody does it. But listen, I just do want to mention this because you're also Canadian, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are excited about me working with Regan Grimes, right?
Yeah.
I do think that he is something special, that we can create top physique, and because especially he has that mentality. Same thing with Samson. You realize Samson's passion for it. He showed me some of his off-season looks with John Meadows.
Yeah.
And he never really got too fat. And I said, like, okay, he was 315, I think, with the visible abs and everything else. It's not a physique that now you can project. I always say, visualize exactly the physique you want to see on that stage. Mm-hmm. And until you see that physique in the mirror, you can't stop, because this is how I did. I visualized something, 97 about, I achieved what I visualized. So there is Behruz Tabani. I want to say this also.
Very impressive.
Super impressive. Look, we're in a predicament now, a week before the show, like every Iranian guy is more than likely not going to get the visa to compete. We're preparing for the show. If he goes to the show, he has a chance of winning, qualifying for Olympia, and very slim chances that he's going to get a visa.
What show is it coming up?
Alicante, the
Spain?
Spain, yeah, in next week.
He can't get a visa to go to Spain?
So far, he didn't get it, yeah.
He's got a beautiful physique, man. Like really, really nice.
Yes.
I could have seen him. I don't want to sound crazy, but I could have seen him winning the last show.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say it because I have another competitor. I told Samson it was between, for me it was between him and.
That's what I thought. I thought it was him and Behruz. Yeah. Not to take anything from Rafael. I think Rafael's got an amazing physique. I thought Behruz just really impressed me. That's all. I was kind of blown away by his physique. So congratulations for having those guys on stage.
Yeah. Thank you. It's just like many athletes watching, they don't understand how good they have it. because you can compete in any show that you plan to.
Yeah.
Iranian guys, and there's like 10 more that we don't even know about, then in phenomenal shape, can never step on some of those stages because they can't get the visa. So I really try to push that issue. If anybody can help, if they can help. I called Hani Rambo to see if he can help, and there's a little bit different procedure for the United States, different for Spain. So I'm hoping that Behruz can get his, justification and get another chance and hopefully qualify for Olympia.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay. I appreciate you coming on, Milos. I think we should do this again. I think next time we'll just line up a whole bunch of pros from the previous years and we'll try and compare who's better and who's worse.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah, no, we'll have fun, man. We'll do this again. Milos, I really, really appreciate you taking the time, man. And I know we went on for a couple hours, but I really appreciate you giving your time.
It's greatest 2 hours. It's like I told you, this is a bro talk. This is what I live for. I mean, I could do this in front of cameras, off the cameras any day. This is our passion. So thank you for the opportunity. I don't want to keep you. My wife just passed by and said, you know that you had taken 2 hours?
Okay. Thank you, Milos.
All right.
We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and like the video. And if you get a chance, check out the description for all the different links to all the different places you can find Hostile and myself. And lastly, check out hostile.com for our new line of supplements and all of our apparel and gear. Thanks again for watching.